Hello everyone, my name is Christina. Today I'm going to really break it down to you how it could be for you as a technology consultant. Specifically when it comes to project work. Your project work is going to be like this depending on what project stages you're in. You may be on site more, you may not be on site, you may not be on site at all depending on like what kind of role you're assigned. And I'm going to actually explain this in a whole different video on like project stages and technology consulting. There are many different types, but for me specifically, when it comes to Workday implementations, I follow design, prototype, testing, and deployment. So for me, like a lot of people have asked me like, do you follow Agile? Do you follow Scrum? Do you follow Waterfall? And I actually follow more like the Workday methodology, which is specific to the actual software implementation that I'm doing. And then there's also different types of projects. So if you're in a normal software implementation, you just have to go on site or you may be home all the time. It also depends on your client budget. If that they don't have budget at all for travel, you may be home the entire time. And there may also be times when you'll just be commuting to your local office and doing everything there with your team if your entire team is local, which is not that common, honestly. There's also times when maybe like the lead of the project is based out of Chicago and then you need to fly out to the Chicago Accenture office. You don't have to go to the client office, just you can go in a war room and then do all the work there. There's so many ways where work can really come in and try to really mix up your schedule a little bit. One of the things that I found probably was the hardest thing to kind of balance is that if you have multiple clients. So before you get all scared and you're like, oh my god, you have multiple clients, like what? There's not a lot of times I hear a lot of people with multiple clients. It's mostly because when it comes to Workday implementations, there's something called like LE, which means like bigger companies, or typically you have like 100% dedicated towards them. So that means like all your time and travel is dedicated to them. And then you also have ME, which is medium enterprise, which is what the field I fall under. I can have multiple clients and they're going to be smaller in scale. What this means is that I can also be 50% on one client, 50% on the other client. And this way I would actually have dedicated time for both of them, either for travel or client work or like head down work, all this kind of thing. So I have to actually coordinate my schedules with them. So sometimes I may have to juggle between two clients and they're aware that I would have multiple clients too. So we would need to work with like, okay, they want all day schedule for this on calls and then all day schedule on this on calls. So like we need to make sure it works. And then also we can't have travel at the same time. There's sometimes that I may even have to fly from one client to the other, which I have not had to do that before. I've had the luck to be able to go back home before I fly back, but there are definitely situations when that happens. So then there's like a specific part of when it comes to software implementations. I'm not entirely sure if this applies to other software implementations, but specifically for Workday, we have different types of projects. One is a full software implementation where it's completely new to them. That is actually probably the easiest part when it comes to that. Then there's also like enhancements, and those are the ones where you have to kind of play in a little testing environment before it gets deployed into the production tenant, which is basically the one that they're using right now. And those are the times when it gets a little bit tricky. I had a project where they were already live with HCM, Human Capital Management, and then Workday Financials was coming second, which means that we're going to be working with an already existing tenant. We do have a testing tenant, which is done on our own, and then after that we need to deploy it into production tenant. So this means that either we work in the afternoons when they're not in the tenant or when they're not in the software at all and they're just done with the day. They actually have to tell the employees not do anything because we're now going in to change the configuration and add configuration in. When it comes to the weekends, that's the other alternative, is if you didn't want to be working the afternoons, you need to work in the weekends. We were actually given the option of either afternoons or weekends, and thankfully majority of us chose afternoons because I'd prefer working on afternoons than working on weekends. This also means that like when it comes to specific tenant builds or software development or all those kind of things, there's a lot of dependent factors. So even if you think that you're done with your work, you may not be, because it's actually dependent on someone else's work, and then only then can you do the work that you were supposed to do for that day. So for example, for me, we're trying to move configuration from one tenant to the other, one system to the other. What I would be doing actually is that we would have work here, and then this work is set up work for the work I'm doing, but this work is actually done by someone else. This person needs to do the work before I can do my work. I've had situations like that where I'm literally going to boxing class just to make sure that they do their work, and then after that I can finally do my work. So there's sometimes like some kind of sequential order in terms of how this works. And this just means that like some of these things are out of your hand. You may need to coordinate with your coworker a lot. They have situations like that where I have to work with their schedule, but then honestly, it's not that bad. It's just like, yeah, I could just wait 2 hours. But if I did have something planned in that third hour, then I'm pretty much screwed. The other thing is +1s. I know that we have +1s at Accenture, and then they do have this in other firms, just in a different name. This means that it's work outside of your client work. For me, Office Champion is a +1, which means that it's not related to any client work. It's actually non-chargeable work. Sometimes it's actually chargeable work, but we'll see. It depends on the kind of work you're doing. But for me specifically, this +1 just means as additional work from your client work. And this is actually supposed to improve the state of the company. So maybe it can be in business development, maybe it can be in like recruiting. There's like all these people that go in for interviews, for your like on-campus interviews. Those are people technically doing a +1. That is typically not necessarily going to be factored into your hours. So if you are like 50-50 on your 2 projects or 100% on your projects, that's like 40 hours. Then this +1 is actually supposed to be additional on top of that. But specifically for me, I'm actually, at least at Accenture, we call it the Office Champion. It's kind of like people from the client team or client facing work of Accenture that organize events for at least the business unit. So in my particular situation, it would be for the Workday business unit in New York office. So I actually organize a lot of events. It could be paint and sips, happy hours, promotion brunches, picnics, all those kinds of things. Those are things that I personally organize. And those really make things fun for you. The caveat is that when it comes to promotions and like performance reviews, these also look really good. Sometimes they're worth the investment of doing it, and we actually recommend it because then you're really helping out Accenture as a company. The other thing is that if you are on the bench, this means that you're not necessarily on project work, or at least on 100% project work. So you do need to do a lot of networking. When it comes to networking, this is how it goes when it comes to staffing, is either you do have like a talent fulfillment specialist or staffing coordinator, all these kind of people, depending on like what firm you're in, and there'll be different names. It just means that they're trying to find a project for you, but sometimes you may want to take matters into your own hands and do networking. So I'm actually going to be explaining this in a completely different video on staffing. So for me specifically, I've done a lot of networking to try to get the projects that I wanted. Even the first project, actually, I got it through networking. I was considered for like 3 projects, and then I realized that like, oh, the person for this project is actually like right above me from training. So I just went up there, I talked to him a little bit, and I got signed on to the project. So networking will be outside of your project work. Sometimes you may want to be doing networking for a project you didn't want to be doing in the first place. So that's why, like, if you're doing like 100% on a project and you're still trying to do networking to either get to like a different business unit or go to a different project, you need to do it in addition to your project work. There's a lot of things out there. However, everything is easily balanced. Like it's like pretty rare to be in that situation where you could be 100% on a project and then trying to get out of the project. But there's so many situations out there. I'm just trying to be as clear and transparent with you as possible on like all the kind of situations out there. So my take it is that I love my job. I actually really like it. It may seem like it's kind of all over the place, but honestly, it's been pretty good. Like I mentioned before, a lot of these situations are actually kind of extreme cases, or that they don't happen that much. There's like all this kind of time management, which I think is a really big key when it comes to consulting, because you're working with all different things going on, and if you're doing really well in time management, you won't have an issue. But if you do have issues with time management, good luck. So I think like time management is definitely something that you need to worry about when it comes to consulting, because you have to, so when it comes to consulting, you have to work with 3 schedules: your schedule, your team's schedule, and the client's schedule. So that's why like it's really up in the air in terms of like how it works out. But if you're really honest with everyone in your team and you have that open environment, I have to pick up my kid at 2 p.m. we will be very understanding. Like that's what I really like about Accenture, is that we have that very understanding environment of like people have lives. They're not necessarily just going to be sitting there doing work 24/7. Like those are really boring people, honestly. And when it comes to like going to the office, I've seen a lot of people that have substance. They're not necessarily working all the time. They're going to get coffee, they're trying to get lunch, and then they just sit down with everyone and eat with them. They're not necessarily just going back to their little cubicle and just doing work all the time. They're always working together, and we share ideas, so it's very cultivating. And I also very enjoy the fact that like typically I would probably say I'm actually home more than I'm on site. Like maybe I'm on site 1 week out of a month, sometimes 2 weeks out of a month, but like majority of the time I'm actually at home. So it helps out a lot because I enjoy being at home with my cats, and then also my boyfriend has a project where he's not even on site at all. This is going to be very specific to technology consulting. This is not necessarily the experience for every consultant, and this is also very specific to my experience and to my knowledge of people in technology consulting. You're in a big firm, you may be having a similar experience like me. If you're in a boutique firm, you may have a completely different process because you may have a smaller budget, you may not travel at all, you may only travel probably for big deliverables. I've actually interned at a small boutique firm before, and I didn't travel at all, and like even my own teammates that were actual full-time employees, they've only traveled for like only twice in the entire year. If travel is not for you, make sure to look for boutique firms. That may be for you. And then there's also consulting firms out there that completely work remotely. There are there's so many opportunities out there right now in technology consulting where you can work remotely. So there's just like so many ways out there you can craft your own consulting career. A lot of people just like leave consulting to be able to go be with their family, but there's just so many ways that now, at least at Accenture, we work with you. And then there's also a lot of opportunities out there where you can work completely remotely. If you're thinking that like travel, oh, I don't want to travel, then that means I don't want to do technology consulting. There's also times when like you can choose your own projects. So if you don't want to travel 24/7, then you can always just say no. I've actually said no to a project before because it was travel Monday through Friday, and it was like the only project, which means that I would have had to say no. I would have to leave my 2 current projects for this one big project, and I didn't want to do that, so I was able to say no. So with that said, my channel focuses on the career of technology consulting, professional development, personal development, and money. So if you're interested for more, make sure to subscribe. I'm doing a lot more technology consulting videos now than before. Before I did a little bit more of career skills, but I've heard a lot of people coming to me that they want more technology consulting videos, so I'm going to be doing more for you. As I mentioned in a prior video, her name is Lightfury. Oh, she's at the door already. Hello. Got a little bed here, got some food, some toys, some water. She really likes this little hut here, and then the litter box here. No, you're not leaving. I don't know much of her backstory, but if you want to learn more about her, follow me on Instagram. I put a lot of my Instagram stories on her and kind of show you a little bit of clips. Also, the reason why she's wearing this blue cone is because there's a mark here. We don't know exactly why. I think like from what I'm seeing here, the vet did this. They kind of shaved this area so I could put ointment on there. Oh, she's been going through so much hell, but she is so affectionate. She rubs up against you. Like the moment I open the doors, you can see she was already here. Oh, she's so cute, and she's also very, very skinny. So I'm trying to fatten her up with some food over there. Okay, say bye. Make that bank for your kitties. Yay! Oh, you're so cute.